Welcome to the Multicultural Mindset broadcast. Your host is Dr. LaVerne Collins, a licensed professional counselor, award-winning trainer, and keynote speaker. Dr. Collins is the author of Overlooked: Counselor Insights for the Unspoken Issues in Black American Life. Dr. Collins has also been a featured monthly columnist in the American Counseling Association's Counseling Today magazine with her Honoring Diversity column. Now, here's Dr. Collins.
Hello. Welcome back to the Multicultural Mindset. I'm LaVerne Collins. Listen, got a wonderful topic for you today because many, dare I even say most, Black women and girls in America grow up with vivid memories of getting her hair done. Whether it was a hot comb on the stove, a chemical relaxer, braids, cornrows, getting your hair done was a cultural expectation that I grew up with. My white school colleagues, white girls would say, I'm going to get my hair cut. And they did that about once every 6 to 8 weeks. But I tell you, every 2 weeks, I was getting my hair done. Hair is never just hair for Black women. It's history, it's health, it's identity, it's how the world reads you in just a glance. So today we're going to talk about Black hair, Black women, psychological well-being. We're going to learn terms like chronic appearance vigilance, like hair esteem. Why is that important? Because from slavery to the boardroom, Eurocentric beauty norms have stigmatized the textures of Black hair and Black styles, shaping identity, shaping opportunity, influencing emotional well-being. Yet, Black women continue to resist, to reclaim, and to redefine what it means to show up authentically. And to help me talk about the psychological impact of Black hair experiences and even hair trauma for Black women and girls is my good friend Nicole Turner, joining us from Cincinnati, Ohio. Nicole is soon to be Dr. Turner. She is a doctoral student at Capella University, pursuing a PhD in general psychology. So, Nicole, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Tell us about your research on the topic of Black women, hair, psychological well-being.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much, Dr. Collins. What an honor it is to be here together with you. I am just so grateful for the opportunity to sit and share. And this topic is one that's dear to me. You know, it's dear to me both as a Black woman, as well as a Black woman who is the mother of a Black woman and son. And it's so interesting the way that, you know, we understand how our worlds, even our emotional world, can be shaped by something as literal and tiny yet huge as hair. You know, when you think about it just on a total fundamental basis, not only understanding how to care for it in terms of cleanliness and neatness, but also understanding how to embrace and how others really even embraced, even as a psychologist, you know, if you're from that perspective, you know, how are we showing up? How are individuals choosing to show up? So, you know, for many years, my background is in science and, you know, mechanical engineering, and I've had a really beautiful, long, you know, history in scientific development, specifically focusing on the impacts and the understanding of how beauty and hair and products really do influence and shape the everyday choices, quality of life of individuals. And so I am very honored to be able to speak on this topic, especially with it being so dear. And so you think about a couple of things, from the kind of chemistries and science of it to the trends and the, you know, what's kind of happening, what's the latest, all the way to the know-how, and education and confidence in the ability to care for your own hair, despite the texture, the length, your age, etc. As we transition in life, you actually recognize that not only are you changing and growing and aging for the good, we claim that for the good, but also the physiological makeup of your hair and how it is behaving also can change, based on context. And so yes, this one is very, very dear to me, and I'm very excited to be able to speak together with you and learn even from you on, how some of these things bubble up to the top when it comes to Black women and psychological safety relative to their hair.
Yeah, just a story that I'm going to add to that's some context for me.
Yes.
I was born in the late 1950s, and my mother was she was a graduate of what was called not cosmetology school at that time, but beauty culture school, and that was it for her in the 1940s. And I remember every other Saturday there was that hot comb in the kitchen, right on the stove, straightening the hair, and she used to tell me that her uh, her instructor
Hmm.
in the 1940s would come into the classroom and tell them about a product that was under development at the time, being researched. And she said, the woman told us you could put it on your hair and you could go swimming or take a shower or do whatever you wanted to do. Your hair could get wet and you would come out with straight hair just like a white girl. And that's how she said it. It was something to be desired.
Hmm. Hmm. And that's
Don't
something.
have to deal with this
Yes. Yes.
hair problem,
Yes.
because that's how it was
Wow.
perceived anymore. And she said, you'll be able to go and get in the pool and do whatever you want to do. And the woman told us this. She says, my mom, I'm quoting her, that woman told us this. And we said, lady, you must be crazy. Ain't
Oh,
no,
I know what.
ain't no way. Well, I think about that. And I think about what that says, how we longed not
Absolutely.
to have to
Yes, absolutely.
care for, or even we had a what we they had a product on the horizon where you would not have to accept your hair
Yes.
anymore.
Wow. Wow.
Was the tenor under which I grew up.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And the first cousin who had an afro in the family, um, she was seen as kind of rebellious, in the 1960s. So I'm going back to the 60s, but I know add
Wow.
you can add to our understanding by telling us, how did U.S. history shape bias against Black hair, and talk about the psychological impact of that, if you will.
I mean, your story is such a profound one, and it's very much rooted in what many of us have experienced, this tension between the hair you have and was born with and the socially heroed, celebrated textures and types. And so when we think about the US history, when your opening statement was profound because hair is never just hair, not for Black women. Afro textured hair really does hold both cultural and biological meaning. And even scientifically, like its tightly coiled structure really, it serves as a natural crown of protection, buffering the scalp, protecting the scalp from the intense sunlight while allowing heat distribution or dispensation, if you would, the ability for that heat to kind of not just highlight one part, but to be able to move across so that it's even. But culturally, we haven't always embraced it as this crown. Culturally, we haven't always seen this beautifully tight coil as the thing that actually is our both crown and protection. And so when you think about the imagery of that and you think about the cultural relevance of it, we start to understand that culturally it more symbolizes community identity and lineage and social status even before enslavement.
Mhm.
You know, when we think about how the literature, even from early days all the way up, so now have learned more. We've done lots more in understanding the impact of that, because we've seen things. We've seen the impact, the negative impact. You know, however, even during slavery, Black people were really stripped of that identity. You know, you think about this gorgeous metaphor of an actual practical crown, that's intended to be beautiful and is intended to be a part of culture, yet we were stripped of it. I mean, heads were forcibly shaved,
Mhm.
literally as an act of dehumanization.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
think about that. The idea that someone's head would have to be shaved, not by choice, but forced to humiliate them,
Mm.
you know, and really dehumanize them.
Mm.
In
Yeah.
early trauma, you know, that served as connection between hair and dignity. You
Mm.
know, Beard and Tharps talked about it in their 2014 piece of literature. The idea that in 1786, Tignon laws in Louisiana mandated that women of African descent had to actually cover their hair.
Had to cover. They
When I
didn't have
learned
to
about that,
hide it,
yes, hide it.
treating them as inferior and treating
Absolutely,
hair as a point of shame rather.
absolutely, absolutely. But by the 20th century, Madam C.J. Walker's entrepreneurial rise really did show how resilient and how this internal conflict could be resolved. I mean, success within the beauty economy that literally equated to neatness and good grooming with straightened hair.
Wait,
Um,
say that again. That's,
yes,
yeah. But
yes. So,
neatness and good
yeah,
grooming
come on.
equated with straight hair.
Come on. So the association then became that when your hair is straight, then it is neat and it is well groomed, which therefore, I mean, come on, you guys, when we think about this in terms of social acceptance, in terms of how others, you know, view you or interact with you, the idea that if your hair was not straight, if your hair was, you know, in its natural tight curl pattern and this, you know, whether tightly coiled to the scalp crown or this, you know, beautiful mane, the idea here is that others would interact with you based on it either not being neat or not being groomed, which now starts to put labels on how clean you are, how well kept, how professional, and all of these other things.
Mm-hmm. And
And
I remember buying into that.
yeah,
I'm telling you, I was
yeah,
socialized
absolutely.
to believe that because when my hair would need to be hot combed again, my mother would use words like, "Oh, your hair's a mess. Let me put a hot comb in that hair."
Come on. Come on. And really, they didn't know any better, right? Because they understood the impact socially
Yes,
at being rejected by society
yes,
in ways or attracting negative attention,
yes.
how that could literally end in death for us. This was not just about
Mm,
needs. This was not just about an image that we were trying to pursue. It was about trying to stay alive. And so our parents, you know, very often did what they could do, the best that they could do at the time, given the social climate,
to
and
protect
to
us.
protect us, to protect us. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then those tapes, even as you start to progress,
Mhm.
those tapes from our elders, those tapes from those in our community, you know, very often still are rooted in fear. And
Mm.
so, and they still, even to this day, I remember my grandma I walked into her house one day and I was in the transition between braids. I was doing the braid takedown. And those of us who understand what that's like in a braid takedown, you know, parts of your hair is, you know, very much unraveled while the other parts are still kind of within the braid itself. So it just truly my hair was all over the place in that scenario. And she comes in and she says, "You ain't going to work today, are you?"
Oh.
And I'm thinking like, well, grandma, no, I'm not. I'm actually not. However, I was kind of liking the curl pattern of the takedown, you know? And I
Mhm.
was thinking like, well, if I did consider it, that kind of gave me an indicator of like, hey, we're gonna have to like get this together.
Yes.
And that's the idea. You know, the idea here is what is the psychological impact of that? How do we think about it? And so here we sit with these generational messages equating witness with worth. You know, and these have been embedded really as a form of collective aesthetic trauma.
That's the word right there, the expression. Collective, what did you call
Aesthetic
it? Collective
trauma.
aesthetic trauma.
And
Oh, that's a wound, isn't it?
it's a wound. It's a wound carried in self-image.
Hmm.
How we show up, how we see ourselves,
Yeah.
therefore reflect on the outside what is happening on the inside.
Mm. And many Black women still oscillate.
Yes,
And I can't speak for other people,
sure.
but in my own life, in my own mind, there
Mhm.
is this
Yeah,
here and there, depending on the day and how much work I want to put into it,
yes, yes.
and how well I want to manage the problems. We'll talk about alopecia and other things, how well I want to manage all those things that occur, as you mentioned, with maturity.
Yeah,
You do go back and forth between pride in the natural texture and anxiety about
exactly.
what is appropriate, even
Yeah.
what is age appropriate, what is for a
Oh,
Black woman,
mm,
it just
that's beautiful.
all those things. But there is a self-image wound there that we have to heal. And I'm thinking, you're studying psychology. I've been in the counseling field.
Yes,
We
yes,
don't broach that. We don't talk often enough to women about how they see themselves, Black women, how they see themselves in
right.
light of their the skin tone, in light of hair texture. We talk about perhaps self-esteem,
That's
but
right.
we talk about it more from a like as if a one size fits all self-esteem book,
Yeah, yeah,
when as women of color, Black and brown women, especially Black women, have this whole other thing. My
absolutely.
book is called Overlooked, and it's this whole other thing that's overlooked. So
Absolutely.
this conversation is so necessary. Let me ask you this: what does research say about hair bias in hiring and in the workplace, and how does that affect mental health?
Yes. Wow. I'm really grateful really for so much of the more recent studies that are really starting to unpack exactly what you said. It's starting to unpack this oscillation between acceptance and not of hair and how that then therefore shapes who they are and how we show up.
Mhm.
Empirical studies, ultimately reveal that natural hairstyles such as afros, braids, locks, twists are rated overall less professional.
Mhm.
And that equates to less professional, less competent, and or less hireable.
Right there. Wait a minute now.
Yeah, yeah. And this is in
Afros,
comparison to straight hair.
braids, locks,
Yeah.
twists.
Afros, natural,
Yes,
curls
yes,
right out, braids,
yes,
locks, twists. These are Afro styles. These are natural styles. These
yes.
are styles that we very often enter into with cultural pride, with convenience,
Hmm.
with style representation is just who I want to show, how I am wanting to present myself in the moment.
Yeah.
These are all things that Black women very often desire to periodically enter in and out of. However, we become loaded, psychologically loaded,
Yeah.
and begin to question whether or not that can be true in the workplace. And studies have shown that we are perceived as less professional, less competent, and then therefore less hireable versus
Yeah.
straight hair. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
absolutely. And really even in controlled experiments, Dr. Collins, Black women with natural hair actually did receive lower job recommendations despite identical qualifications. There was the Crown research study even that was done by Dove and LinkedIn in 2023 found that Black women's hair literally is 2.5 times more likely to be perceived as unprofessional. And
mm,
2/3 alter their hair for interviews to fit
mm.
Eurocentric standards.
Yeah,
And
you
I
got to
just
you got to
think,
get the job. You need
exactly,
the job. So
exactly,
you got to
exactly.
go in looking the way the interviewer may, the way you expect them to want you to look.
Come on, come on. And
Yeah.
imagine that psychological load that you're
Yeah.
already preparing for, already trying to present the best possible presentation of yourself, of your skill set, of your knowledge, of your history, of you being a great asset to the company.
Mhm.
Now layer on top of there how you are going to have to assess or adjust, amend your schedule even because we
Yeah.
have not even began to talk about the financial and
And
or
time investment.
time investment when
Yeah.
it comes to caring for Black hair. And
You're
so
talking
now,
about code switching your appearance.
oh my,
It's just like code switching our language expressions.
absolutely,
When I was thinking about that, this notion of code switching one's appearance, I thought,
absolutely,
wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
deep.
yeah.
Keep going.
Absolutely. I mean, it
Good.
is. I mean, and the code switching is such a good word and term, because I learned even in my own walk. So in my story, I love to wear my hair in a lot of different styles, and the movement of going in and out of braids or in and out of even a um a straight style, something like this, or even with added pieces or not added pieces, colored pieces or not colored pieces, all of those things become a part of the fun expression that I very often like to do, just as just personally. And I've even found that there were moments of judgment, even internal to our own within the Black community, of whether that choice was in or out of a natural style. So one might say, oh, well, you're wearing your hair straight right now. Clearly, you're not embracing or have not embraced the natural curl pattern of your hair. So, how can we speak to this idea of all of these biases? And then I had to really dig deep and say, well, hold on, wait a minute. Let me understand, because even I can be like awakened to the idea of, you know what, you still have some work to do in that particular area in acceptance. But more so, that was not the case in my scenario. In my scenario, it was about the freedom to express the choices
The
that I
choices.
had,
Yes.
despite how others may interact and or engage with me. And so
Yes.
I think that that became really more of the motivation underneath for me to be able to maintain that freedom to go
Yes.
from style A to style Z,
Yes.
despite how
Yes.
others may interact with me. And that, Dr. Collins, is what I really do believe becomes more of the mission. The mission is freedom to be who
Yes.
you are destined and designed to be, despite
Yes.
and not being discriminated against and or judged based
Yes.
on whatever that decision is, um,
Yes.
because all of us should have the safety of being able to embrace choices that we choose to make with our appearance that really do speak to who we are in that moment. You know?
Exactly. We're not going to be defined by anyone or anything
Mm,
other than who God has made us to be and the freedom and choices that He has given us. That's one of the beautiful
absolutely.
things about Black hair, the choices that we have.
Yes. And the
Um, black hair is good hair because it's any hair that stays where you put it is good. And that's
Isn't that the truth? Behave to hair. It's good hair.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
good. That is
Um,
so good.
let's talk about identity,
Yeah.
self-concept, and mental health. How does hair bias?
Hmm.
It's hair discrimination,
Yeah.
really. It's you think of racism, sexism, it's hairism.
Right. That is That's profound. It really is heroism. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Like these biases that we talked about, this idea of being seen as less professional, less hireable, um, not as neat, not as put together, and therefore, um, really kind of negatively impacting our ability to be seen for who we are rather than how we wear our hair. This really actually creates a chronic appearance vigilance.
Chronic appearance vigilance.
And
And oh,
yes, when we think about
that just resonates with me because it's real in my life.
yeah, I tell you what, same. I mean, scheduling my life around
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
hair being a complement to whatever life I'm choosing.
Hmm.
This chronic appearance vigilance really is about almost this constant self monitoring. And this constant self monitoring actually, it fuels anxiety and emotional exhaustion
Mm.
because you're constantly brewing and stirring and brewing and stirring on, are you okay? In the moment, throughout the day, think about this. You make your choice, you style your hair as you intend, you move throughout your day. For Black women, styling our hair as we intend with natural hair means when we move or step into the environment or make different health choices like exercising, where it might generate sweat, or we are rushing just a little bit to get from point A to point B, guess what? In the back of our mind, we're wondering, are my
How's
edges
my hair
thin?
holding up?
How's my hair holding up? Is it swelling? It doesn't mean that other women don't face the same challenge. It just means that what it takes to fix it,
Yeah.
how it's appearing on who you are,
Yeah.
not just how your hair looks.
Yeah.
How is my my first moment with someone? How is
Mm.
that first moment? How am I being perceived from the moment I walk in the door before I might even get a chance to quote unquote fix the swell,
Yeah.
fix the out of pocket, place.
Yeah.
And I'm sure to many degrees, many people, no matter despite the color, face this. But as Black women, the acute association with who you are, what you're able to bring to the table,
Mhm.
whether or not you're mm, accepted or valuable enough, especially in a professional setting or
Mhm.
even in a parental one where you're showing up to the PTA or you're showing up to the community board meeting or what have you, whatever it is.
It's not the experience, it's the meaning of the
Absolutely.
experience. And
Absolutely.
one internalizes that. Um, no matter what a Black woman does with her hair,
Mhm.
there is there can be the fear of and the worry of how does it look,
That's right. That's
whether
right.
it's a natural style or a straight style.
Right. That's right.
We have put so much value on that because society does. And as you said earlier, whiteness and things associated with whiteness is equated are equated with worth. Sadly,
Sadly.
to our nation's shame, to the world's shame. It's not just our nation, but to the world's shame. Shame on us
Yeah.
for um, I don't mean us as in people of color specifically. I mean as a human race.
Yes.
us
Yeah.
as a human race for minimizing people, judging people, and associating value and worth, and as you said earlier, even competence. That puts a burden on a Black woman that others just don't have.
You just don't have that. And that is the truth. And when you talk about this emotional exhaustion, and we talk about this burden to always kind of present well, and the labels associated with someone else's perception. The idea here, and you mentioned earlier, this need to code switch, our appearance, it just parallels with this almost code switching that leads to identity suppression. Like this whole idea of this racial battle fatigue, like it's just exhausting. The thought that we constantly over time are being eroded, or our self-esteem and authenticity is being eroded over time, fostering this fear that our natural self may
Yes,
cause the opportunity, for self-dignity and respect. It's kind of like we get to show up in the
yeah.
fullness of who we are. And, having these fears and this constant um, assessment, brooding and stirring in our being,
Mhm.
it weighs
And
on us.
and you know what, even when there's not judgment,
Right.
there's the fear of judgment.
Isn't that good? Isn't that the truth? Like it is even before anything happens, or another person may not even be around and or near,
Right.
the conversations that are happening in our mind
In our minds.
and in our hearts still are ever going.
And that's where we get into needing to decolonize our own thinking.
That's right. Wow.
We've got to take the oppressive thoughts
Yes.
out, and the oppressive fears, which are really trauma responses,
Yeah,
truthfully, because
absolutely.
yeah, we've got to recognize where that comes from and begin to dismantle that and begin to say it's okay if I choose to blow out my hair. It's okay if I choose not to blow out my hair. I
Yes.
can choose. And again, that's the beauty of Black hair. You can choose to blow it out and wear it
Yes.
straighter, or you can choose not to blow it out and wear it with any degree of its natural curl, all of it or none of it, right?
All of
That's
it or none of it.
that's the
Dr. Collins, I mean, what you have spoken, your work, even in understanding these very specific lines that are unique to the Black experience, is just a heartfelt, phenomenal posture relative to the total of mental health.
mm,
Because if you don't understand a person's story, their history, how these, while you may think hair is small relative to mental health, the reality of this showing up in esteem and identity and the things that we're trying to help hold people
mhm,
through as they are moving in their journey towards wholeness, towards a more improved quality of life, not understanding, valuing, acknowledging those specific contexts and experiences would be a
thank
disservice. And so I just thank you so much for the work that you are continuing to champion in this breakthrough territory of being able to really bubble up all of these nuances so that we can move in a total human race of
yes,
improved mental health, not excluding and leaving out the Black experience from.
yes.
So thank you. Applaud to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this conversation is certainly cutting edge as well. we talk about some of this at the appearance and performance level, um,
Mm-hmm.
amongst, at least amongst my, in my circles,
Yeah.
you know, but we don't talk about the psychological impact. When you mentioned racial battle fatigue having a hair component for Black women, I just went, oh, there she goes. That's it. It's part of our racial battle fatigue. We don't talk about that. And as you suggested, I get great joy in bringing these overlooked things to the surface and
Mm-hmm.
encouraging counselors and therapists and social workers and psychologists and anybody who works in the behavioral health field. I enjoy giving them the idea to bring that up
Yeah.
because it's a part of a Black woman's reality. How dare we allow ourselves to overlook that? But that's the cultural norm. We don't
Absolutely.
talk about things like this. We don't bring these things to the. This is part of that. What goes in the house, what goes on in our house stays in our house. I mean, that kitchen with that hot comb, that
Yeah.
was like private space.
That's
Like,
private
you didn't
space.
want anyone back there. That was
That's
private. That's a personal thing.
absolutely. And so much
And
of it is associated with pain, and we don't get it. It's not the intentional pain, but it is the necessity from our ancestors, from our elders. They believed that this was necessary in order to
yes,
protect us. So
yes,
with it being rooted there, very
yes.
often some of us were burned um, by those same hot combs, not on purpose, but the
Mm-mm.
heat of them, the steam of them, and
The
the
earlobes.
earlobes. Ooh, crispy earlobes. Ooh, and it would seem like all time would stop, and all you heard was like the sizzle of your rice, like Rice Krispies. Your ears is like, and it felt like it was on there forever, and it was just a split second, the natural reaction. But to us, it is like traumatizing. So now the whole time you're like ducking and dodging,
Flinching.
please. And then literally my mom used to be like, stand still, like sit still. I'm like, "Ah, you literally just burned me. How am I supposed to sit still through this? But it is, we look back over it now and it's hilarious. It's funny now. But man, at the time, there were like alligator tears. I even think about the times where my hair was like pulled so tightly with the
Mm.
pigtails, even because those edges needed to be straight before there were these wonderful chemistries that are now out here to help with those edges staying in place. You know, the brush and the grease and the things, and
And the
you
smell of the heat and the grease and the the smell of sulfur 8, remember? Sulfur 8 and bergamot and the blue bergamot jar. Okay, some folks are too young to know anything about that, but just know
listen,
it's cultural.
it's
It's
cool.
Welcome
it's
to the
it was
Multicultural Mindset.
part of.
Your host is Dr. LaVerne Collins, a licensed professional counselor,
We're running out of time, but I
award-winning
gotta ask
trainer,
you this.
and keynote speaker. Dr. Collins is the author of Overlooked, Counselor Insights for the Unspoken Issues in Black American Life. Now,
And
here's
because
Dr.
of
Collins.
the chemical, I guess, structure
Yeah.
of our hair, and because of all of the things that Black women are invited to do to their hair. I mean, I've gone through the braid stage and the the perm, relaxer stages, so many things. And then you get to this age and the doctor's saying, yeah, the problem is alopecia or the problem is this. And let's combine, if we can, the hair and scalp conditions
Mm,
with the hair and scalp um, products
mhm.
and processes and talk about what all of that means medically and psychologically.
Yes. It's a phenomenal question. I think what ends up happening very often is the more we handle our hair in ways that um, go against its natural physiological makeup and are trying to push it into its extremes in situations that are not always protective for our hair, we run the risk of damage. So, for example, our natural curl pattern, um, when it's forced to no longer be curly and it is forced to lock in position in a straightening position, you run the risk of damaging the outer layers, the cuticle and the cortex as well. Why? Just think of like a rope, and the physical tension that you put on it. And once it's gone under too much tension, then those fibers actually begin to be under stress. So, not just emotional stress, but physical stress. And so, whether we're pulling it under tension to heat it, to straighten it, pulling it under tension even to braid it, pulling it under tension to put it in ponytails, many times that tension without a protective emollient layer and or a oil, a grease, a lubricant to help buffer some of that tension, then you're going to experience damage. This damage leads to breakage, and this breakage leads to hair that now becomes a little bit more difficult to, what I would say, train and or condition, just like your muscles, right? You condition your muscles to be strong. You condition them to break down and build up. From a hair standpoint, when we are physically putting our hair under tension, chemical, heat, physical, these are all contributing towards um, opportunities for hair damage that
Mhm.
can lead to breakage. Now, it doesn't just happen to the hair itself, to the hair fiber. If we think about hair as fibers, it also happens to the scalp.
Mhm.
There are various things that happen both internally, things that we take in or don't, nutrient wise, vitamin wise, external conditions, environmental conditions such as pollutants and or toxins. How often or not do we kind of detox our hair and or cleanse it, condition it so that it has a strong foundation to start with and then begin to continue to build it up to ensure that those bonds are at its best. Those are all components of consideration. Now, Dr. Collins, as you know, within the community of Black women and Black men, you ought actually, more of us face things like eczema. We face some things, other skin conditions or conditions that are not just about the way we wear our hair, but also are linked to our skin as one big, beautiful organ, right? That contributes to how then our hair is conditioned, managed, maintained, or able to thrive. And so with those comes a big opportunity and burden to ensure that we have the right understanding of how to care for our hair in context of some of these other things that are a lot more holistic than just a style. It truly is about the full whole makeup of ensuring that we both are educated and are prepared to be able to have the best quality of life possible that can contribute towards a healthier opportunity for us to care for our hair and then therefore make some quality choices.
You know what I'm hearing in all of that, Nicole, is that sometimes our efforts to conform to the beauty standards, while we're doing that from a social perspective, and doing what we need to do, as you said, we learn these things for social protection, so to speak.
Absolutely.
But it can actually, to maintain those standards, can result in sacrificing health holistically, physically health.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, I've been in a place of saying, gee, I'd like to put a relaxer but I know it's not good for me. I know it causes inflammation and can lead to cancer, but I didn't have time to do thus and such. So the fastest thing to do is to do this. And you end up with this tension.
Yes.
You end up with this cognitive dissonance, as we call it, right? Where you're in two different positions and can't figure out which
Mm,
one should win. Basically, you have this internal conflict. Um,
yes.
Black women pay that emotional tax, don't we?
Yeah. It's the emotional tax of assimilation.
The
And
emo-
really, I think therapists like you and counselors can help reframe beauty and wellness through a culturally affirming lens, therefore reducing the guilt and really fostering autonomy.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
it's a beautiful thing for us each to be able to show up truly as who we actually are and feel confident day to day without the emotional and mental burden, the emotional and mental load that comes with feeling as though
yeah.
we have to assimilate constantly
We
to
have to shrink who we are
yes.
to be
Yeah.
safe. I had a supervisor one time who I had worked at this particular location for several years, and when I was leaving, I was moving from one city to another. At my final, like my little farewell party, so to speak,
Uh-huh.
my supervisor made some comment. I don't even know what the context was, but it
Mhm.
was something about nothing changes as frequently as LaVerne changes her hair.
Oh, I've had that one. Wow.
And
Interesting.
yes, and I enjoy changing my hairstyles.
Mhm.
Yes, every 2 weeks I do something different because I can.
Right. Right.
But that was a joke.
Hmm. Yeah.
That was a joke, more than a compliment.
Yeah. Hmm.
And we have to be careful because Black hair
Yeah.
becomes the brunt of many jokes,
Yeah.
and those become microaggressions, either
Mm.
micro insults, micro assaults, or micro invalidations. I won't get into the definitions of
Come
all that, but
on.
I
Come
know you
on.
know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we think about, and thank you for commenting about therapists and psychologists and other and counselors and providers uh, promoting a culturally affirming response. What else can we do to support emotional healing?
Yes. You know what? I believe that there's a couple of things that we can do. You know, when we want to ensure that emotional healing is ever present, especially in this particular area. I really actually think we can just ask direct questions. You know, literally ask directly, how do you feel about your hair? Normalize hair as a topic in mental health, you know, because it sometimes it's so subconscious. Sometimes we've lived it so much, it becomes just um the internal thing that you're dealing with that you accept as the norm, even the
Mm-hmm.
stressors of it, even the heaviness of it, the weight of it in consideration, because we've had to do it so often. But I think counselors, therapists, psychologists, you know, we can actually just ask direct questions about how are you feeling about your hair? How do you feel about your hair?
That's normalizing the conversation, and it's
Literally.
also leading to decolonization
Mm,
of our mindsets about who we are and how we, air quotes, should be.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Giving people the freedom. When I've done this, I've asked similar questions about colorism. I've asked people with a large family,
Yeah.
do you suspect that you or others in your family have experienced colorism
Yes.
within your family system
Yes.
based on skin tone? And just the fact that I broached that. Just the fact
Come
that I
come
asked
on.
gives the person a sense of relief. And I can, every time I get the same response. Yes, people who are lighter have these privileges or preferences, or people who are darker in our family have this experience. And then they go into, and people who are taller or people who are shorter, and they
Yeah,
begin to
come
talk
on.
about all the phenotypic
Yeah.
isms and differences they experience within the family. Same goes for hair, right?
Same goes for hair. I
Yeah.
mean, and then nowadays we have language around it. 1C, 3C, 3A, and
Yes.
all of
We're
the
further, yes, we're
further.
further categorizing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And your 4C hair and my 4C hair, they still behave different. I eat different. I'm in a different environment. There's just a lot of other components to it. I mean, it's beautiful that we are starting to at least have ways by which we learn how to navigate our unique patterns. But to your point, there still are these moments of, internal. Um, uniquenesses and differences or what have you that can be highlighted and have an impact on us. I remember, language growing up, you're pretty to be so dark.
Oh,
That one, you're so pretty to be so dark, you know, and somehow that was supposed to be a compliment or, oh, you're just like a little chocolate baby doll.
your little chocolate mint in your green outfit. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And there's always this identity reference or color reference
Mhm.
attached before the complement. Okay. And even in word kind of associations and how we understand how that psychological impact or load happens, which is why I think that the second thing that we can do is actually address internalized biases
Yeah.
by using tools like CBT or ACT to help challenge negative self beliefs and foster self compassion. I remember just like feeling like I was too dark, I was too this, I was too that, my hair was too
Go
short,
ahead.
I was
Talk about that.
too this,
Yes. Yes.
and this internalized like mind. I was teaching myself based on some of the comments externally. I was creating a different narrative internally, and I wasn't able to differentiate between is this a good thing, a bad thing? I just know how it makes me feel. I know how it lands with me. And so then I begin to associate my value, my esteem, my this, my that based on some of these mental tapes. And so I think that that's another thing that we could do is really address these
Rest.
internalized biases.
Internalized racism is real.
Absolutely.
It is real.
Absolutely.
Treating this, seeing this as racial trauma.
It's
Um,
real.
yeah, you've got to externalize the
Yeah,
source of this pain. This is systemic.
absolutely.
You're not damaged
Mm, mm, mm.
anything about your hair or your skin tone or anything anything like that. Um,
Yeah,
we are regal and beautiful and royal and worthy of respect
yeah,
that transcends shallow, superficial standards, and
absolutely.
decolonizing our way of thinking um, in favor of European um, beauty standards or whiteness as being more worthy or more worthwhile or whatever, or more competent, any of that. We've got to put that on the table
Exactly.
because a dark skinned 4C, again, air quotes, sister like me, how has dealt with all of that silently all of my little life.
See, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes I feel like the language that you use, like this validation of racial trauma, is important because what we want to do as a society, or I'm hearing these like sentiments of wanting to move past it. We're not living in that age anymore. We've come so far. Well, does that mean that internalized, generationally internalized trauma doesn't exist, or that it's not having an impact because we've made progress in this direction? We're still not there, which, and despite what your personal experience might be in progress, guess what? we have to still validate the racial trauma and that it exists.
Amen, sis. Right there.
No. And then
It exists.
honestly, Dr. Collins collaborating with dermatologists and stylists, because I touched on it before a little bit, but know-how is so critical, because sometimes we actually are trying to do best by our hair, and trying to take care of ourselves in the best ways possible, and it seems like we're going the opposite direction. It's like the more I do, the worse it is, or I can't, or this inferior kind of idea or this sense of I'm not able, I'm inadequate to care for my hair, or I don't have the tools, or what have you. And I just, I talked about mommy guilt. My baby, she's 19 years old now. She didn't know how to braid when she was going off to school. And it dawned on me one day in the mirror, and I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, I have not set my baby up for success. Girl, what kind of
Mhm.
mama are you? How in the
Oh,
world? You got to know how to braid. You got to know how to wrap your hair. There's certain things that are go-to that I need her to independently be able to do. Should she not be able to get to a stylist or to me? Thank God for the college braiders. Shout out to y'all, and, and those people on campus who's like, girl, I got you.
I got
That's a beautiful thing, but,
yes.
but the reality of uh, c- realizing that those moments were ours. And so I was very often doing her hair
Hmm.
for bonding. That was our time. We could talk for
We're going to
hours.
time.
Yeah, I mean, and so there's a beautiful aspect of that, but this collaboration would be extremely important. And of course, empower advocacy,
Yes.
educate them, educate, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
clients that this is real. Studies have shown, to help them understand that, what? I encourage self-expression. It's a form of liberation. Try
Yes.
something new this week. Give them an assignment, do something that maybe you wouldn't have done. How did that feel? What emotions did you go through in that process?
Yes.
When therapists really do acknowledge hair trauma, and counselors and psychology leaders, I believe that I feel like people report that they would feel seen. That's
Absolutely.
a crucial step towards restoration, pride, and just self-love. And that's really where we want people to be.
You are amazing. Yes, that is where we want people to be. Nicole Turner, what a delightful conversation this has been. I wish we had more time. Um, but I'm gonna close with this. We're talking about personal validation, but there's also space for institutional validation to help reduce the emotional strain and the opportunity for the racial battle fatigue, because organizations, not just individuals, but whole organizations, need to reflect inclusivity
Yes,
in
absolutely.
practices, in uh, in yeah, we didn't talk about the Crown Act, but and that's the Crown Act is supposed to give a black man or woman freedom for hair expression and styles, not to be seen as a source of shame or as a something to be held against them. But the culture, the institution can do a lot. That's where decolonization also has to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the idea of it happening in such a unique and authentic way where it's not about the dollar. It's not about only progressing the bottom line of a business, but it is a true movement where we want to be able to pull sources, resources, information. Psychologists, counselors should sit on these boards. They should
Yes,
sit in the midst of
yes,
new product design and development to be
yes,
able to understand how to advance and improve true, real quality of life. How
yes,
to, come and undergird through breakthrough science, breakthrough packaging, breakthrough, laws, expressions, and celebrations thereof. I love that. I love
yes,
that, Dr.
yes,
Collins.
yes. Let's keep the conversation going, folks, wherever you are. Let's embrace rather than overlook.
Yes.
Sometimes we overlook things subconsciously because of some underlying shame. We don't want to bring some things to the surface because we think it might be too difficult to talk about. And even to my colleagues who do not identify as a person of color, it can be feel rather awkward sometimes. You feel like you're not the person who should broach these such things. But it's more important that you learn to embrace and broach these
Yeah.
kind of conversations so that you don't come across as racist. The only thing that I would say is, consult. I mean, I'm available all the time for consultations. I have people of all races reach out to me and say, hey, I've got a multicultural dilemma here. I've got a multicultural situation. Before I do damage, I want to run this by you for consultation to see if the way I'm thinking might be misunderstood or might be out of line for a person of another race or another color to even ask in this way. I do that. I accept those kind of consultations. So if you're wondering how to broach issues of colorism or hairism, racism, don't sit and just sit on it without moving, um, without acting, without consulting and asking. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. My contact information is always on the on this podcast at the end, and also on my website, which is newseasons.training. Nicole, I thank you so much for this really healthy conversation today. I appreciate you being with us. Are there any final thoughts that you want to share before we sign off?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Collins. It was such an honor to be here. I just say, you know what, if you're even listening to this podcast today, I say, kudos to you because the reality is, all of us have a beautiful responsibility in helping to uphold each other as the human race and to help make life better, to help make moments better, the best that we can by showing up. And you showed up today. So I am so thankful for that. And Dr. Collins, it is always a pleasure learning from you, sitting, chatting with you. I could talk forever with you. So thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this very well needed discussion. So
And thank you for taking some of your precious time to dialogue with us about it. To those who are listening or watching, thank you. I thank you also, as Nicole has said. Thank you for sharing in this time with us. If you are a practitioner, I just want to remind you, let's keep practicing with empathy, cultural humility, and a multicultural mindset. So long for now.
Thank you, Nicole Turner. Nicole has been a scientist in hair care for 30 years. With a background in research and development, she holds 5 patents related to hair science. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering and Mechanical Technology from the University of Cincinnati and an MBA from the University of Phoenix. She is currently pursuing a PhD in psychology at Capella University. Be on the lookout for more outstanding work from this multifaceted lady.